Hey booktubers, Lisa here. Today we're going to be talking about the book Catch-22 by Joseph Heller right here. And this book was recently made into a Hulu miniseries. So let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly. So this book the setting is off the coast of Italy. There is a fictional island called Pianosa, and it is World War II. The primary character is by the name of Yossarian. Yossarian is a bombardier for the US. The bombardier is someone who flies, a pilot would fly that person into the air, and then he would be responsible for pushing the button to drop the bomb on the target. Yossarian is very unhappy. He doesn't want to do any more missions because his life is in danger every time he does one of these missions. Most of his friends are getting killed in action. He tries to go see the doctor to get him declared insane, but that doesn't work because there's this catch-22, which says if you ask to be declared insane, you are sane because you're understanding the nature of the missions is very dangerous. Therefore, because you have that understanding, you are sane. So it was a very a circular conversation. Yossarian is also upset because he's flown on a bunch of missions, and every time he gets close to completing his tour of duty, his superiors say, no, they raise the mission count, so he has to fly more and more missions, and he'll never be able to complete his tour. So the book is supposed to be a satirical war novel. However, these are my opinions, and I know lots of people really love this book. I did not. So the first thing was I felt like this book did not have a very good identity or lost its identity. The first piece of what was trying to be satirical, funny, it wasn't funny. There were many circular conversations. And if you're not familiar with circular conversations, I will give you an example that happened to me in real life. A few years ago, I bought a car, and it came with a free subscription period for satellite radio. It was offered by SiriusXM. When that subscription period ended, they started sending me solicitations in the mail, advertisements, and I was getting them sometimes up to twice daily. And I lived in a little apartment. My mailbox was like this big, and it got to the point where I would just open my mailbox, open the door, I would move the rubbish bin right in front of it, I would open it, and I would just let all the advertisements just fall into the rubbish without even looking at the stuff. It was very much like when Harry Potter is getting his invitations from Hogwarts. It was the same thing. And I probably would have let this go on forever, but my husband said, Lisa, you have to call and get them to stop sending you these advertisements. So I did. I called, I was on the hold for 40 to 50 minutes, and they said, oh, sure, we'll remove you from the mailing list. Okay. But the mailings, the advertisements, they just kept coming and coming and coming. So I called a second time, on hold again, 40 to 50 minutes. Oh, sure, we'll take you off, no problem, ma'am. We have your name, your phone number, we removed everything, you'll never hear from us again. Okay. I'm still getting all these advertisements. The third time I call, I tell the gentleman, please stop the advertisements. I tell him I've called in twice already. They assured me I was removed. He said, well, let me remove your information, and then I'm going to refresh the system. So he removed my information, he refreshed the system, and my information was back in the system. And he said, ma'am, I honestly do not know how to remove you from the system. At that point, I learned about something called the Michigan Attorney General. And before you think I'm a really big hotshot and on a first name basis with the Michigan Attorney General, I'm not. there is a consumer complaint form that you can fill out online. So I filled that out, and they just did a tremendous job, and they were finally able to get a hold of SiriusXM legal department, and they were able to finally remove me. But that being said, I have no patience or tolerance for that anymore. When I find myself in a circular conversation about the third or fourth phone call, I realize this is not getting anywhere. I'm gonna put in my complaint to the Michigan Attorney General. I'm not gonna get frustrated. I'm just gonna put in the complaint, and I'm going to have the government help, come alongside me, because I'm an ant compared to this huge corporation, and I'm lost in this bureaucracy and these circular conversations. So at least that part of the circular conversations were relatable, especially when it comes to the increase in call centers, where people can really only read from a little script no matter what your problem is. So it was relatable, but it wasn't funny. I didn't think it was funny. And the audiobook on this was almost 20 hours long. So 20 hours of circular conversations, it was just too much for me. The second piece was that it was a war novel. That in itself didn't bother me. It was the way in which Joseph Heller wrote the book. So first he wrote the book in a bunch of legal pads, and most of the chapters in the book are named after a different character, and they focus on a different character. So there are so many different characters in the book. There's too many. And I felt it was really difficult to connect with so many different characters. And I'll give you an example out of the book. There is a character named Orr, and he goes missing in action. And the book talks about Yossarian is sitting in his tent waiting for this gentleman to walk through the tent. And this idea was actually really unique and interesting, and I wanted to noodle on it a little while, because I've never experienced that. Unfortunately, fortunately for me, I've never had a loved one disappear. If I had a loved one who died, I knew why. I knew it was a car accident, they had cancer, they had a heart condition, they were, whatever. I knew the circumstances. But with this, I was sitting there trying to think of, what would it be like to have a friend, a loved one, that I just didn't know what happened to them? And to think, where are they, and not know, and that uncertainty. And that was a concept that I really wanted to flesh out, and a feeling that I wanted to feel and experience as a reader. And unfortunately, Joseph Heller, the Orr part where he goes missing in action, that part of his chapter was a page and a half long out of this entire book, a page and a half. And it's not that I don't get emotional when I read books. I do. I've read Little Women, but when you read, they focus on a handful of characters. By the time one of them dies, the tears are streaming down my face, and I think, oh my gosh, the world is such a worse place because this beloved, wonderful character died, because you knew how much that person meant to the other characters and how they were such a great person, and you felt really bonded with the characters. But because Joseph Heller just covered so many characters, it was really difficult for me to bond with them and to feel emotionally connected. So I don't feel that the satirical part worked and the comedy, and I don't feel like the war portion really worked with me, because I had a hard time, connecting with just so many different characters in here. For me, this book is an easy 1 star. I never want to read it again. So if you like this book, free sample here. I'm definitely, this is in the donations to the library, because I'm not reading this book again. I did, however, read the Hulu miniseries. It was much better. And I can tell you, I mentioned earlier, the audiobook on this was 20 hours. The Hulu miniseries is 6 episodes of 45 minutes long. It was much better. It was clearly they took the best parts of the book out and then they just cut whatever didn't work. Wasn't funny, wasn't, you know, emotional or engaging. They just cut it, which was most of the book, right? 6 45-minute sessions out of 20 hours is not very much. They also, the Hulu series has a drastically different ending than the book. So if you didn't like the ending in the book and you want a different ending, you can try the miniseries. If you didn't like the ending in the miniseries, you can try the book, vice versa. That is my review for Catch-22. If you enjoy brutally honest and sometimes unpopular book reviews, make sure you're subscribed to my channel. Until next time, everyone, I'm Lisa of Troy. Peace.